Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be here earlier, but from what I've heard, it's been a good day, and I've got about 10 minutes to speak. I can talk really fast, so feel free to shout out, slow down if I go too fast, and I'll try and tell you as much of my story as I can. Here it goes. So in January 2009, I stood in the Young Mayor elections in Tower Hamlets. I won, being the first ever female to take the position, and I defeated 23 other candidates. I worked in a team of one young mayor, that was me, and 3 deputy young mayors who are all guys. There was more female candidates than males, but for some reason, males seemed to dominate that position. So I was the first ever girl breaking through the ice, but yet second, third, fourth places went to guys, so I worked with guys for a whole year. And throughout the year, we focused on we had 3 priorities, which was to organise the first ever school council conference in Tower Hamlets, to deliver the first ever Young Mayor Roadshow, where for 7 days we had our own mini bus kind of thing, and we went around with a megaphone and we toured Tower Hamlets. And we also did a project with young people not in education, employment or training. They were the 3 main priorities we focused on, but we were involved with other events and other projects and other campaigns. This was a campaign I was a part of. It was called the Local Hero Campaign, where not young people, like anyone making an outstanding contribution to the community got recognised. And I was the only young person that got chosen for it. And I didn't know it was going to be so big, so I went on holiday and I come back and I was going to university and I saw a bus go past and I kind of looked twice and I thought, hey, that's me. But yeah, he went on buses, he went on billboards, and he went on lampposts and all sorts of stuff. And at first I wasn't too sure about it, but I realised that young people started to really look up to me, and they used to find me really inspirational. And when I went past schools or when I was just on a bus or a train, I'd have young people always approaching me, even from other London boroughs, asking me about how they can get more involved with projects, similar projects, and how they can do more in their community and stuff like that. Being Young Mayor of Tower Hamlets was a year's position. I stayed on for an extra 6 months to support the new young mayor. It was a life-changing experience, and I wouldn't be the person I am if I hadn't made that decision to stand as a candidate. There were other projects I was part of. I worked with the British Youth Council. I worked with the Young Mayors Network. I got to work very closely with the Children's Commissioner for England, where on 11 Million Day, I don't know how many of you know about it, where young people take over older positions. So I got asked to be the Children's Commissioner for a day, which was fun. And I also did the opening speech in the Children's Commissioner's report 2010. So I've had quite a lot of wicked opportunities. I also did quite a lot of work with UK Youth Parliament, where I was a member of UK Youth Parliament. This picture comes from the first ever time anyone was allowed to go into the House of Commons and debate on October the 30th, 2009. It was the most amazing experience, and the day started off with 1 or 2 MPs coming in and just looking at what we're doing, and by the end of it we had loads of MPs coming in and really interested in what we had to say. We received a lot of media coverage, positive stuff, surprisingly, but it was also like with UK Youth Parliament, they do various stuff. And does anyone know what UK Youth Parliament is here? Has everyone heard of it? No? We have loads of regions, so I'm part of the London region, and then like the whole country, it unites young people from all across the country together, and every year we have an annual sitting in different areas. So the one I went to was in Canterbury, and you meet young people, like-minded young people from all across the country, and they've become very big now. You can Google them and stuff, they're quite big. And so that was a House of Commons debate. That takes me on to media. Next image. This was another opportunity I had. I got approached by a clothing company who were interested in challenging the media's portrayal of young people. I was part of it, and it was trying to like show that hoodies ain't a threatening thing, and the way we dress can be portrayed very negatively by the media. And not just that, it's just the way young people are reflected by the media is just so negative when it's not actually the true image. I started to become very, very passionate about the way young people are represented by the media. It started to disgust me, and I used to just think, it was just one of those things I would never think about before. And like when I got approached by this clothing company, I just thought, hey, you know what, it's true, and I really want to start working in the media. I want to get involved in more projects, media focused, and not just so general. So my year in office was kind of over by now, and but I was still being approached by various companies and stuff like that. And I saw an opportunity being advertised by the British Youth Council. I think I'm doing something wrong. I can't change slides. Oh, wicked. I saw an opportunity being advertised by the British Council. It was a competition open to all young people in the country to go on a world summit for media, on media for children and young people. And the world summit was taking place in Sweden. There was only 4 places, so we had to send in a piece of work just telling them why we want to go. So I did like a collage. I won along with 3 other guys. And so I went to Sweden and I met some amazing young people. This is Jonathan, he's from Germany. He's only 13 years old. And this is Yorka, she's 12, and she's from Bolivia. It was just like, I met so many young people from all across the world, and it was just another real eye-opener for me, and I got very emotional while I was in Sweden. Yorka's story is amazing. She works with a company called World Vision, who actually paid for her to come to the World Summit. She had to get a visa like a few months before she came, and her dad works in the mines, and he had to take a week off work. She comes from a very poor background, and he had to take a week off work to go on free bus journeys 35 hours away just to go and get her visa. They had to stay there a week to wait for that visa to come through. Then they came back, and then 3 months later, she had to wait for all the paperwork to come through. And then on the day she arrived, she was telling us how she took like 2 planes and 4 buses, and she just made missions just to get to there. And I remember we started off, because the UK were actually, they were facilitating the whole Youth Global Council in Sweden, so we were like facilitating, and we asked everyone, what are your hopes and fears for the week? And Yorka's like, my fear is that my dad, I don't know if my dad's going to come home alive, kind of thing. So it just, she took it differently. Obviously that's not what we intended to ask her, but it was just weird, and it just makes you think about life and how lucky we are. And this is another image. This is us Skyping with Nepal. So there was loads of countries that couldn't make it. So those who couldn't make it, we Skyped with them, and we spoke about issues that are affecting young people regarding the media all across the world. And the aim of the sessions during that week was to come up with 5 main global issues and a few recommendations that we can put forward to the UN. So these issues are obviously in regards to the media and affecting young people. There was hundreds, but we did eventually manage to cut it down to about 6. These are the 6. So one was free access to the internet in schools and libraries, to ensure children are safe using the internet. So that's both at home and in school. Get children and young people involved in making decisions. This was quite an interesting one. It was, we thought that it would be a good idea to have like a young person to represent like TV stations and radio stations and magazines and stuff, so they can look at media and look at the content that's being advertised out there before it actually goes out. Another one was challenge negative representation of children and young people in the media. That's pretty obvious and self-explanatory. Promote media literacy and education from an early age. So this one was quite an interesting one. There's a lot of debate about it, and it's like, is media studies in secondary schools enough? Shouldn't we do it in primary schools? Should parents be educated into the way media is affecting their children's lives as well? The last one was strict guidelines on commercial products linked to children's programming. There's a lot of discussion about commercialism and about us being used, as well as about young people being used as adverts and like being used very tokenistically as well. They were the main issues, and there were also recommendations with it. The Global Youth Media Council was what we called ourselves, so there was no such thing until we went to this summit. and the campaign was called Are You With Us? All of this was like, we went to, the World Summit happens every 3 years. There's never young people there. So this was the first year that we went along and we actually really put all our energy into it and we recognised the council, and hopefully from now on every year there will be young representation at these summits. That was Sweden. Whilst I was at the event, I met Lord Potman, who he attended the conference as well, and he was very inspired by the work the young people were doing there, and because I spoke in both the opening and closing ceremonies, when we came back he asked me to go to the House of Lords and speak with him. He was given a lecture on media and young people, merging the two together, and he asked me to give a response to what he had to say, and there's loads of people at the event, and again it was an amazing opportunity. I had spoken at the House of Commons and I just really wanted to speak at the House of Lords, so I was just like, it's led me to so many opportunities, and this was just when I came back in August, this was in August, and I just think, hadn't I not stood as a young mayor candidate in January, I wouldn't even be interested in stuff like this. And you don't know where you're going to end up. And I'm so committed to campaigning for fair representation of young people now, and in general, but as well as like very media specific as well, because I realise that that's a very a big concern for young people. I think though, it's not something I can do alone or any young person can do alone. We need as many young people to get involved as possible, as well as adults and the media. I would say this, think of all of us as a hand. So think of you and me, the media, all of us as a hand, where the fingers that stand alone aren't as powerful as a fist. So I think we need to work together to make real change happen, and in order to make people see us differently. And I think young people never know where that one step will take them. I was just speaking to Dominique, and she's saying, she started to get involved with youth clubs, and then it's led to all these other things, her going to India and stuff like that. You never know, one opportunity leads to another, and you don't know where you'd end up. And I'm so thankful that I took that step and I put myself forward as a young mayor candidate, and I just hope the future has loads and loads more opportunities for me. Thank you.